Let's do some slow motion color grading. I'll show you my workflow for getting high quality slow motion with the GH5.
Pulling me down.
In this video, I'm gonna show you first how to avoid certain color issues that you might have when you're shooting slow motion in 8 bits. And then I'm gonna show you how to create a crispy film look from your footage. And then I'm gonna show you how to slow down your footage in post to get even slower slow motion. We're gonna color correct 2 clips from a video that I just uploaded. You can check it out from here. I shot it 2 weeks ago at the Chiang Mai University in Thailand, and there was these 2 cool local girls who were into pennyboarding. And if you want to follow along, you can get these 2 clips as well and try these techniques yourself by going into my download vault. And to get an access to my download vault, there's a link below where you can join my Facebook Messenger list or my email list to get an access to the vault. And in this video, I'm going to be using the color correction kit, which is a set of tools for the GH5 to get the best color out of this camera. So, okay, let's start. First, I want to show you what I mean with color issues with the slow motion 8-bit footage. Here, I have a clip that I accidentally shot in 8 bits in 4K. And first, this is V-log. Let me show you. Where is it? Here. This is V-log, and this is color corrected with the color correction kit. First, it looks good, but because this is V-log 8 bits, we have these issues. Like here, it's very visible. You can see this banding. There's blue on the left side and red on the right side. And this is very annoying because, especially if you have it on skin. Let's see if I have it here. Yes, there's a bit of this on my skin as well. In this case, it's not that bad, but sometimes it's very visible when you're shooting someone's skin tone. Like you have these color blobs on their skin. And that is very annoying, and that's why I don't recommend using V-log with 8 bits. So, if we are not going to use V-log with 8 bits, what is our alternative? Well, here let me show you. So, here is cine-d. Here is V-log, and here is cine-d. And notice that this V-log is shot at ISO 400, and this is cine-d, which is shot at ISO 200. And those are the minimum, like the lowest numbers those profiles give us. So, when we shoot V-log with ISO 400 and we color correct it with the color correction kit, so simply applying a lookup table from the color correction kit and doing minimal tweaking, we get these colors. And it looks okay, but if we zoom in again, like here, you can see this banding there, and especially in this jar, let me just check it, there's this weird banding in the jar. And if we go to cine-d, the banding is not there. The gradient is very smooth, and here there is no banding here either. But the colors are, well, ugly, and to fix that, I'm going to use the color correction kit again. So to do that, let me do it from the beginning. So on the Lumetri panel, I'll just apply a lookup table to turn cine-d to V-log, and then I'll use the same lookup table to color correct V-log. And then I'll do just minimum tweaking that I did with the same on the other one. And now these clips are almost identical. There are small changes in the color, but very minimal. But when you look into this jar, or like for example, there in this V-log we have the banding. On this cine-d we don't have the banding. And on this jar, the same thing. The gradient, from there to there is very smooth, and on V-log it's very steppy. So the banding is steppy. Well, anyway, let's continue. Well, then I want to show you something. That because this V-log was shot with ISO 400 and the cine-d was shot with ISO 200, there isn't that big of a difference in the dynamic range. For example, if we look here in the highlight area, let's go here. This area is clipped. So this is cine-d and this is V-log, and there isn't much of a difference in the highlight area. Actually, I measured it, it's less than 1/3 of a stop difference in the highlight. And then if we go down and find a shadow area, like there, and we really push up the shadows all the way to 100 and do the same thing with V-log. Okay, there. And now when you compare the shadow areas between these two profiles, the cine-d in 200 and V-log in 400, you don't see that much of a difference in the shadow area dynamic range either. So this is just me showing that because the V-log in the Panasonic GH5 is very limited, the V-log is not giving you all the dynamic range that the profile could. So there isn't a difference. There isn't a noticeable difference in dynamic range between these two profiles, as long as you shoot cine-d in ISO 200. Just that you know that using this cine-d, you don't lose when you're shooting 8 bits. In 10 bits, always use V-log because it's much better. But in 8 bits, I would recommend using cine-d instead of V-log. Okay, so that's how I get around the color issue when shooting 8-bit footage. And now let's start with the color correcting these clips. And to do that, I'm going to use the color correction kit. And let's start off by turning this. So this is cine-d, so let's turn this to V-log. So we're remapping the colors to V-log color space. And then I'll choose one of these lookup tables inside the color correction kit. And in this case, I think the film gamma 1 looks the best. And because these film lookup tables have a bit of an issue of having a bit of a magenta cast, so I'm going to just add a bit of green to remove a bit of the cast. And then let's check if we'll play around with the temperature as well. Well, let's leave it there. So now I often end up giving, with these sliders, I end up giving kind of like a S shape. So boosting up the contrast, pushing up the highlights, bringing the shadows down a bit, bringing the whites down a bit, and then bringing the blacks down a bit. So I noticed that I often end up doing something like this. Let's see what we did with this. So rather similar, kind of that kind of S shape. Let's see if we can push it even further. Something like that. That's good. Okay, let's continue. And then I gave it this bit of like a blue shadow tint. So to do that, I'll go to the color wheels. And let's see, let's give the shadows just a bit of blue. And I don't quite remember what I did, but let's just play around with it. Something like that. So very shadow look, but looks good. And then to give the footage this kind of a filmic, almost compressed look, I used curves. So here you can see here, there's this curves effect. I did this kind of shape. So I'm gonna just copy this here. And now we have it here as well. And now that we compare these, actually there's a nice tool in Adobe Premiere. And we can use this, you can find it here. So somewhere here, and then you can add it to the bar here. And this will give us like reference and current. So now the reference is this clip. And the current is, well, this clip. Let's find a good clip. Let's put this, yeah, so there. So this is that we want to have, and this is what we're working on. So now let's go here and let's play around with the settings even more. So here we can see that the image is darker. So let's bring it down, something like that. And then let's maybe play around with the contrast a bit. Yeah, no, so yeah, that was an easy way to get. If you have a reference, it's always good to have a reference when you're doing color grading. So if you have a reference with this tool, it's easy to get it to look pretty much the same. And so I guess we are there. Look, so we color corrected it from cine-d to V-log, to Rec 709, and then we added this milky look, and now it looks very similar. But then let me show you a couple of things. These layers here. So this, when you look into this, let's zoom into the footage. When you really look here, this looks rather soft, and this has this kind of a crispy look. And then there is this grain effect as well, so this one. And let's create those here. And to give this like a very sharp look, first I will go to the Lumetri effect, to the Creative tab, and just add a bit of sharpening. Just something like this. But then I'm going to do another effect, which is adding local contrast to the footage. And this is something that is kind of a bit out of the book, so this is not very ordinary technique. And to do that, I'll show you how it's done. When you try this, it will make sense. So to do that, push this clip to the top one, to the one track above, and then press down Alt or Option on your keyboard, and then bring it back down. And the reason is that if this clip would have an audio track listed to it, let me show you. It's very difficult to explain it why I'm doing it like this. So let's get this clip here and let's just cut it a bit. So the reason why I'm doing this is that I'm pushing this up and I'm pressing Alt. So now this clip is kind of the original clip, and now we have like the same clip on top of itself, but we have the original clip with the original audio. Well, let's just continue. Just it's the way to get the original clip to stay below untouched. Okay, so now we have two clips, the same clip on top of itself, and then we're going to add an adjustment layer here, and we're gonna spread it across the clip. And now I'm gonna use a couple of effects. First, I'm gonna go invert. Here, channel and invert. And then I'm gonna add another effect called Gaussian blur. So Gaussian blur. And now in the effects panel, I'm gonna put this to vivid light. And ta-da, we have a gray image. And this is because the invert and the vivid light are working together, kind of cancel all colors. But now we have a nice thing that we can do with the Gaussian blur effect, which is, by the way, press this down, is to blur the image, and this will cause the contours of the image, all details to pop, like really pop out. And to do that, to have it, by the way, it's good to remove all the effects from the clip and make it black and white for this to work better. So now we have this kind of a layer. So this is our original clip, and this is our kind of detail layer. So by kind of blending these two layers, like the original footage and the detail layers together, we can emphasize the details in the footage. And to do that, we have to nest this. So we'll nest it. Let's give it like a short name, local contrast. And now on the effect control panel, go to overlay. And here you can see that now it really gave the footage a lot of this like extra detail. So clicking here, you can really see that there's a lot of that effect. Especially here you can see it in the hair and in the ear. And maybe we don't want that much, so we can go and lower the opacity, maybe to let's say 60. So that looks better. And then another option to have even more control is to go here, and then just start playing around with these settings to kind of test what we want, like what kind of effect, or like what details we want to give more emphasis on. For example, I can lower this by just bringing the contrast down a bit, and then bring the highlight area down a bit, something like this. And by playing around with these, I can kind of dial in which details I want to show and which I don't want to show. For example, with the curves effect, I'll just add a node in the middle gray, and then I can kind of bring the white areas down, or then I can maybe bring the black areas. So I'm kind of deciding what details I want to emphasize and which I don't want to. For example, now I can emphasize the hair more, and then I want to remove this glow on the nose. Okay, now I think the footage is that now we have kind of nice pop. So it's not too it's not popping too much. It's not like ruining our shot. It's just giving it this nice crispy look. In this case, that I would like to have. And I want to limit the effect that it has. For example, you can see on the corners, this effect is kind of giving this weird glow to the corners. So I don't like that, and I like to give this effect to the hair, but I don't like to give it to her face. So let's just make a mask with this this effect on this layer. I'm just creating a simple mask, something like this. So now we are giving the effect is affecting the board and her hair, but not her face. And then we need to, of course, animate the mask as well. So let's just move it around a bit. So this is my fast way of tracking masks. Okay, yeah, pretty much there. Okay, so now we have created this crispy look by adding this sharpness to the ears and hair and the board, but kind of leaving it off from her face. And then the last thing to do to get the same look is to just add this grain layer. And this grain layer is, I have this file. This is like a couple of seconds of grain that I created in After Effects. It took like 50 minutes to create this file. And you can do it in After Effects, but there's an easier way on my download vault. So let's go to my download vault. Where is it? Here. You have this 1 second of 5 grain. On the download vault, you can go and download this. You can as well go to some other, like on Rocket Stock, you can buy this same thing and it's $100. So you can spend money, or just go to my download vault and just copy this clip. And then on your editor, just stack the clip, like put it on, like this is the clip, and then I just put it like many times in a row. And now I have this, where was it? We are, so here, now there we have this layer that this as a comp that we can make longer, and we can just use it like that. The original clip was just 1 second, but this is long enough. Okay, and there when we look at this, now we have the same look as we had before. And by the way, this is longer because I just slow it down. This was 50 frames per second, and I just used the speed and I put 50 there, but you get the idea. You can slow it down as you want. Okay, so that was how we created this look for the cine-d footage. Next, I'm gonna show you how to slow down this quick clip to look like this. And this clip was actually already shot in slow motion. It was 50 frames per second, so I can already slow it down to 15%, and it looks like this. So it's already a bit slower, but I want to slow it down even further. And to do that, I'm going to use After Effects and recreate new frames in between the existing frames. And to do that, it's very important that the frames that the footage that we start off with, that in the footage we don't have frames that are too different from each other. For example, if I toggle between frame A and frame B, which these are like next to each other, the image is not that different. So there isn't that much difference in between two frames. But if there would be faster movement, then we would not probably be able to recreate the frames in between, because the software, it's difficult to kind of understand that in the first frame the hand is here and the second frame is there. It's very difficult for it to understand how to create the in-between frames. So that's why for this effect to work, you need to shoot in slow motion already, or then have something that moves rather slowly. So not something that has the objects are moving a lot between frames. Okay, very complicated explaining, but you will bump into that issue if you don't understand this. Okay, so the first thing that I did, I chose the clip, which we already slowed down to 50%. I clicked it and I then pressed X, and that brings us these in and out points. And then I'm simply going to export this as a QuickTime and ProRes, and then let's give it a name. Let's give it slow motion plus plus. Already did it once, so I'm going to give it plus plus, and then I'm going to export it. And now let's fire up After Effects, and I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to import the footage file here, and let's choose the slow motion plus plus, and then I'll simply just drag this to the new composition icon, and then on the new composition, these are like sequences in After Effects. Premiere, these are sequences. In After Effects, these are compositions. So I'll double click or right click this and go to composition settings, and then I'm gonna give it more length, because in After Effects compositions have always like a limited length. You have to set it. For example, let's slow this down 8 times. So if I'm going to slow it down 8 times, I'll need to make sure how much is that. 24 times 8, so that is 192 frames. So I'm going to write it here. So it's just simply like 192 frames, and it automatically turns those frames into seconds. And now if I zoom out, like here, or pressing Alt and scrolling up, I can see that this is now longer. And then I'll go to time, and enable time remapping, and then I'll simply just bring this all the way here, and now I have the clip all the way here, but we don't have any frames here because we only have frames between these two keyframes. So let's start creating those frames, and to do that I'll go to the effects search, and then I write time warp, and I add that effect here. And here on the settings I'm just going to add, so if we're going to make it 8 times longer, so then we need to slow it down 8 times, so that is 12.5%. And now we have all those frames, and if we look at this, it is nicely smooth and slow. Yeah. On the settings, there's a lot of settings that you can use. Just go to YouTube and Google how to use the time warp effect. But on this case, I'm just gonna pump up the vector detail amount to 50, and all the other settings are just fine. And when we do this, we can start, let me show you why I said that you need to have frames that are not too different from each other, because even in this footage we can see a bit of that issue, because if we zoom in all the way to 200 and we go to this edge of the cap, you can see that in these new frames that we created, there's this weird glitching effect, because After Effects is not able to kind of predict what will be revealed underneath this cap. So then it's trying to guesstimate its way out, and it's still causing these glitching issues. With this warp layer, all these settings, you can kind of help After Effects to understand better what's going on. But for me, I think it's good enough, because this is a moving clip, and only pixel peepers like me and maybe you will actually know this glitching effect in this short clip. So I will say that this is okay. Let's just continue. And now I have the composition set up. So I'm gonna go to composition, add to render queue, and choose a codec, for example, a ProRes 422. If you don't have it, you just choose whatever codec here, like lossless, and you click here, and then here on the format options, you can go and find your ProRes codec. But I already have it here, so let's go to ProRes 422 and then render it out. Let's give it a name like fix and save, and we'll render it out. Then there's two things that I want to mention here before we bring the clip back to Premiere, is that in Premiere you can as well use this block. If you double click or right click a clip, and then you can choose this replace with After Effects composition. In many cases this is a really good feature, but when you're doing this kind of slow motion thing, this function actually brings the whole clip, not only the part that you want to slow down, and then it will give you extra headache in After Effects to try and find the right part of the clip. So it's much easier to just render it out and bring it to After Effects like that. And the second thing is that in Premiere we already have this function to use optical flow when we're slowing down stuff. So it's basically doing the same thing as After Effects that we just do in After Effects. But trust me that the quality of the slow motion with the Premiere's inbuilt optical flow kind of feature is much less, the quality is much lower than with After Effects. Okay, now let's bring the footage that we just created. Let's bring it from this folder, so the slow motion plus, and then we have it here. Let's bring it here, and now we can look at all the smooth slow motion that we created in After Effects. And now this is our, let's see, if we slow it down like 8 times, that means it's 400 frames per second. So that's our super slow motion 4K footage, though it's now in full HD, but the original clip was in 4K. So we have really high quality slow motion that we created in After Effects. And then we can just color correct it the same way that I did with the previous clip. So with this one. And you can just do the same things as we did before. Okay, that was my quick slow motion tutorial. I guess it was like 20 minutes, I don't know. If you were able to follow all the way here, congratulations. And then if you want to try this yourself, just go to the messenger list or my email list and download this footage and the grain layer, the grain effect of the grain footage. And yeah, tell me in the comments if this gave you any questions. If you're wondering something, just ask and I will reply. And I want to mention that we have a Facebook group as well that I created for people who want to learn stuff like this. So you can join the Facebook group as well. It's the link is in the description as well. Okay, thank you and see you in the next video.